Texas is offering more than 1,000 acres of land to President-elect Donald Trump,
where we could see a hub for his promised mass deportations. And parents are worried about issues along Farm to Market Road 973 in Manor, what they say could help make the road safer.
Plenty of red boxes for the month of November, but could today actually land in the blue box category? And what about tomorrow morning? Those details coming up in your first warning weather.
In-depth, investigative. This is KXAN News at Noon.
More Texas land will go towards border protection. The Texas General Land Office is offering President-elect Donald Trump a 1,400-acre ranch.
It could serve as a site to build detention centers for his promised mass deportations of undocumented immigrants. Land Commissioner Don Buckingham announced the move in a letter to the incoming president. We told you last month the state bought a ranch in Starr County in South Texas. Buckingham said she was fully committed to using every tool at her disposal to help Trump, quote, keep American families safe. According to the Texas Tribune, a Trump spokesperson has not yet responded for comment.
Texas public elementary school students are one step closer to hearing stories from the Bible in class. The State Board of Education says it will formally sign off on a curriculum change, allowing for certain biblical readings and lessons. This comes after the board heard hours of pretty emotional public comment earlier this week.
Not only is learning about common stories and phrases from the Bible important in a student's understanding of history, but it is the First Amendment right to have access to this information.
The state may not turn public schools into Sunday schools and force teachers into the position of preaching rather than teaching. The State Board of Education should reject this curriculum.
The board passed the new curriculum in a preliminary vote yesterday. If it passes the final vote, districts would have the option of using it starting next school year. It's not required to adopt this curriculum, but schools would receive additional funding if they do so.
Routine audits of UT Austin's websites are flagging words related to diversity, equity, and inclusion, also known as DEI. This is all part of the university's effort to find potential programs or events that are no longer allowed. A post of some of these words circulated online. Words like diversity, gay, lesbian, social justice, and others are reportedly among the terms that are flagged on UT's website in a routine audit. The university says it's all part of an ongoing effort to stay in compliance with a new state law that bans DEI programs or events on public campuses. UT says the words it flags are not banned or deleted from their website or any curriculum. In a statement, the university told us this, quote, the university routinely scans its websites as a means to identify programming or events unrelated to academic and research functions that may not be permitted under SB 17. The scans were first implemented in fall 2023 in advance of that law going into effect and including a list of terms that are guides for identifying potentially non-compliant functions that require review.
First warning weather.
A beautiful, beautiful day so far. And in fact, it's a drier day as well. Take a look at your current dew points for the day itself. Anything that you see in this darker brown, that just means very dry air. You have to go all the way out towards the coast in order to see some of the more air filled with moisture out there. Current temperature is 60 degrees at Fredericksburg, 58 out towards Mason, 61 as you get out towards Llano, 62 in Marble Falls, 64 in Austin, and way down in Lockhart, we're looking at about 63 degrees with satellite and radar showing the clear skies continuing not only now but through the next couple of hours. A live look out of our High Covington Cellars camera. Let's take a look at what to expect as you see the drop-off temperatures for the little ones. 67 degrees, and even as we go past that, we're looking at dropping to about 62 degrees. Temperatures will continue to drop as the night goes on, down into the 30s and 40s. I'm going to be talking about that cold night ahead, plus the sunny skies that continue to dominate, and the weekend ahead. That's all coming up in your first warning weather.
Thanks so much, Freddie. Neighbors in eastern Travis County are not happy with how fast traffic is moving on a busy thoroughfare. People who live nearby Farm to Market Road 973 say they want to see that speed limit lowered.
The Texas Department of Transportation says it studied FM 973 north of US 290 and it's recommending a change. KXAN's Dylan McKim went to look out at that issue in Maynard there. And Dylan, tell us about what you saw.
Well, if you go in that area, the intersection of US 290 and FM 973, you're going to see a lot of development. It's really exploding the population out there. You look at the different apartment complexes that are being constructed. There are many housing developments going up. One that's going to add 400 new homes into that area. They also have a shopping center that's 63 acres, going to add an H-E-B and a Home Depot. So much is going to be built up in this area. And the road, really, 973, is just not up to snuff for the level of traffic that it's seeing right now. It's a 2-lane road, 1 lane on each side with speed between 55 and 65 miles per hour. You got construction there right now. You have all these people who are trying to funnel their way onto US 290 in the mornings and in the evenings. And that, of course, is going to create a traffic headache. You talk to families out there, and they're upset about how fast cars are driving 65 in some areas. And, of course, people do exceed that speed limit. And, you know, we talked to one man who's been there since 2016. This was farmland, and they had farmland speeds. It's now building out to be residential area, and they need residential speeds to accommodate that.
I know you took a look, Dylan, at some of the data backing up what's going on there when it comes to safety and danger. So what is TxDOT seeing out there? Yeah,
TxDOT really keeps track of all those crashes that happen out there. And what we've seen since 2019, that there was 230 crashes on a 5-mile stretch of FM 973. 3 of those were fatalities since 2020. And when you go out there, I mean, you talk to people and they say there's a culture of running red lights. As you can see this dash cam video, someone running a red light right there, turning left onto oncoming traffic. A running red lights, driving on the shoulder. One guy said he sees people passing people, like going out into the grass to get around. Like I said, you see those long lines of traffic. People get frustrated, they get impatient, and they're going to go around. Also an issue, there's 3 schools on that road with 0 school zones. And so parents who have those children who are always dropping off and picking up, that concerns them. You'll see a semi-trailer driving 55 miles per hour past a school that's actively dropping off kids who are, you know, K through 12. So that is an issue that TxDOT is looking at. They did a speed study. They're recommending to lower that speed limit down to 55 from 65. And they're also talking about they're in the early talks of a proposed plan to improve safety and mobility on that road. That means widening the road, which is, of course, will be welcome with all the traffic that's happening there. But the residents there who live there say, hey, you know, we would even like to see the speed limit go down to 45 and, of course, see those school zones to keep the kids safe.
A lot to track there as those changes potentially start to come. So, Dylan, thanks for looking into it, going out to that area, seeing what was going on. Yeah. We do want to remind you all, this actually came from a report. One of our viewers sent us the idea for this story, and that led to the report you just saw. So you can submit your story ideas, or if you've got a question you want us to dig into, you can use the Report It feature on our website. You can also take out your smartphone, scan that QR code. It'll take you right there, or just send an email to reportit@kxan.com.
Uber and Lyft are rolling out a rider verification system that aims to keep both passengers and drivers safe. This comes following several incidents in Indianapolis where drivers have been carjacked or assaulted while working. Uber's new rider verification system shows a blue icon to confirm a passenger's identity, and Lyft will use a blue checkmark, similar to social media for verified riders. This added security gives drivers access to more information about their passengers, including their name, photo, and rating before accepting the ride. While this verification system is in place, it's still good practice to double check the driver's details before hopping inside.
First warning weather with meteorologist Freddie Vela.
We've been discussing how this night is going to be very, very cold. So let's go over it one more time, down into the 30s and 40s for many spots. 34 in Fredericksburg, 34 in Llano. But remember, if you get some of those low-lying areas, you could actually drop down to around 32 degrees. So we're going to be watching for that. 40 degrees in Austin, 37 tonight in Bastrop, 39 in Giddings, and 37 in San Marcos. We don't say we didn't warn you that it's going to be cold tonight. And let's talk about a cold front really quickly. We have cold air masses that are going to try to make their way on in. And when this cold air mass actually starts to push its way on down towards the south, it's going to overtake the warmer air. The warmer air is going to rise, and we're just going to be left with the cold air that comes in. Sometimes the cold air is shallow, sometimes it's not. And if it is shallow and weak, it's still classified as a cold front, even though our temperatures might only drop like a degree or two, and that's it. But we'll be watching as that cold air filters in and continues to filter in throughout the day and the night. It makes in the dry air and the very light winds, and that's a recipe for our temperatures to drop. Clear skies right now, current temperatures excuse me, at around 61 in Austin, 62 in Marble Falls, 64 in Austin, and 63 out towards Bastrop. As we go on throughout the day today and tomorrow, we'll notice the clock just continues, and there's no changes until we get to Friday, where there's a couple of light clouds that are going to try to make their way on in. So high temperatures are going to slowly start to rise with no other cold front coming in. We should be back up into the mid-80s as we get out towards Sunday and Monday. So what about our high school football? Well, live on KBVO, you're going to be able to check out this game. Kickoff at around 58 degrees for the halftime, 56, and for the fourth quarter, 53 degrees. That's LBJ versus La Verenia, and that's going to be taking place at Seguin's Matador Stadium. Here's a look at your 7-day forecast. 60s for today, 70s for tomorrow, Friday, and into Saturday, 80s as we get into Sunday and Monday, but our lows staying in the 40s for the next few days.
Ronnie, do you remember these picture days?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And this is just out of the front door of this building.
It was an innocent time in our lives.
This is day 9. This would have been the 8th grade. The pictures were taken at the very start of the school year. This would have been in the fall.
September of 65, right.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So she would have gotten this picture and then passed away a few months later.
Yes.
Within weeks.
And it's just like all those things that she probably dreamed about just stopped that day. My name is Darlene Farmer Ostermeyer. I'm currently vice chairman of the Falls on the Colorado Museum that tries to depict the Central Texas era through time.
What is the significance of this building to you?
This building is actually the heartbeat of Marble Falls. It became the first school for Marble Falls in 1907. Can you imagine all of the feet that have walked on these wooden floors? That to me is just telling.
We've been looking at the case from 1965. You were related to Danon, right?
Yes, she was a second cousin. Her grandmother and my grandmother were sisters. She was a couple of years younger than I, and she had beautiful blonde hair, and she was extremely quiet. I mean, she bordering on shy.
What did you think when you heard what had happened?
I think Danon was such an innocent soul. It kind of shattered our family. I heard she was found hanging, that she had hanged herself with a rope, and it just didn't make any sense. A young girl that probably had thoughts of grandeur and growing and high school and dating and all those things, so much in front of her that it just didn't seem conceivable.
Then in the years since, have there been thoughts about what could have happened?
My grandmother had certain theories, and some of them are very unpleasant to think about. I think she probably knew of some undercurrents that I was not privy to as a 15-year-old, one of which might be the truth, other than what was listed on the death certificate.
You know, the fact that it was ruled an accident doesn't sit well with a lot of people.
My family always thought something wasn't quite right. Maybe we could have gotten some different and better answers, and maybe we could have found the truth.
Not far from the old schoolhouse, which is now the museum, Backbone Creek snakes through the city, just feet from where Danon Lewis lived and died in 1965 in the Burnett County precinct, overseen by Justice of the Peace C.B. Wall. Danon was buried less than 48 hours after her death. Judge Wall closed the investigation a week later, never ordering an autopsy, which would have provided medical proof of how she died.
An expert tells us a justice of the peace today would be far more likely to order an autopsy in a case like this.
My name is Judge Rick Hill, Brazos County Justice of the Peace, Precinct 3.
What are the qualifications to be a Justice of the Peace in Texas?
To get elected JP in the state of Texas, basically you have to have a pulse. All right, you have to be 18 years of age. You have to live in the county for 12 months, in the precinct that you're going to serve for 6 months, not be a convicted felon, and be mentally competent. And so as long as you can keep getting elected, you can stay in office.
There are many JPs in Texas.
About 900 JPs in 254 counties.
JPs date back 200 years in Texas. Archives reference them well before statehood, since the earliest days of the colony, introduced by a man known as the father of Texas, Stephen F. Austin, in 1824.
Justices of the peace historically are individuals in a community where if a cow wandered over into somebody else's property and there was an argument over who the cow belonged to, went to a justice of the peace.
How has the Justice of the Peace system evolved?
90% of all the cases filed at any level in the state of Texas are filed at our level. We do small claims cases. We do all the evictions in Texas. We do truancy, counties that don't have a medical examiner's office. We do the death inquests.
Texas is unique with that last responsibility. Many states primarily use elected or appointed officials called coroners who have some training to investigate and certify deaths. Some primarily use medical examiners, doctors who've studied forensic pathology to conduct autopsies for that purpose. And a handful of states primarily use other elected officials to act as coroners, including Texas, which is the only one to specifically utilize justices of the peace. There are medical examiners here, but only in 14 counties. The rest rely on JPs to carry out that coroner role on top of all their other duties. They're not required to have medical training like a doctor, though they can contract for autopsies in counties with medical examiners or private entities, but often that does not happen. Take Vernon County, where Danon Lewis died. In the past 5 years, JPs there have investigated nearly 800 deaths, deciding to send fewer than half elsewhere for autopsies.
When an unattended death happens, we have final say over everyone on whether an autopsy is done or not. We consult with law enforcement, medical personnel, family members, and given the circumstances, we order autopsies or not. You know, if it's an unnatural death, suicides, homicides, traffic fatalities, young people who really we don't know what happened, you order an autopsy.
But sending out for autopsies can be costly. We've seen counties pay as much as $4,700 per body. That decision is why, in part, JPs rely on the Texas Justice Court Training Center, where Judge Rick Hill teaches the many responsibilities of this role.
Every Justice of the Peace goes through 80 hours of initial training, and then we are required by law to get 20 hours of concurrent training every year.
Does that include death investigations?
Almost every training has some sort of death investigation piece. What we teach judges is, given the circumstances, are you comfortable enough coming up with a manner of death, cause of death? We train judges to say, you know what, if an autopsy is needed, you order one. Back in the day when the training center wasn't in existence, JPs were elected to office. You got the keys, and it was like, good luck, here you go. From 1965 to today is like the dark ages to the modern world.
In 1965, the training center didn't exist. In fact, it was only that year Texans first had a way to officially complain about judges through the newly created State Commission on Judicial Conduct.
You can actually report judges for conduct that you think would be not becoming of a judge. There are some judges who have been removed from office, suspended from office.
In fact, the commission's handed down more than 400 disciplinary actions against JPs since 2001, some related to death inquests.
What do you say to people who say it's time to change the way Texas determines cause and manner of death, that it's a process that shouldn't be left up to Justice of the Peace?
You know, I don't know what that would look like because hundreds of JPs do inquests. I would think that that boils down to resources. There are counties that have become quite populous and JPs are doing lots of inquests.
That's one reason a handful of Texas counties, including Judge Hill's, are now choosing to fund their own medical examiner office in the near future.
State lawmakers made it tougher in recent years to require more counties to get a medical examiner, but after our questions, that could change next legislative session.
The needs for having a proper medical examiner is something that is unfortunately in demand.
Your JPs are being overwhelmed because of the workload that they have. Well, then it's time to take action.
Online now, A Hanging on Backbone Creek, the complete digital investigation. Watch the entire docuseries, explore the Danon Lewis mystery and other reports on Texas's justice of the peace system, and more, including an update on how our questions could soon lead to change at the state capitol. And don't forget to listen to a new season of our Catalyst podcast, where we take a closer look at this 60-year-old case and how our team pieced the evidence together. Just go to kxan.com/Backbone Creek.
In-depth, investigative. This is KXAN News at Noon.
The results of the November election are now finalized, but not without a little late drama in the Austin mayoral race.
Travis County workers added a new batch of provisional ballots on Monday night. You fill those out if your eligibility is in question when you go to cast your vote. Austin City Council members canvassed the results yesterday and declared Mayor Kirk Watson as the winner. He finished above the runoff threshold by just 13 votes. The Travis County tax assessor sent us a statement saying, quote, on Friday, November 15th, voter registration staff was entering provisional ballot history, which is the final step for our office in the election process. It went on to say through this procedure, it was determined 75 provisional ballots had not fully completed that process.
Officials say the public can now be confident that it counted all eligible votes. Second place candidate Carmen Yanez Pulido has declined to say whether she'll request a recount.
The Texas Secretary of State says that she has until 2 tomorrow afternoon to do that. She would also have to pay the bill and the full cost of the recount. 3 weeks after a deadly stabbing on campus, leaders at Manor ISD will talk to families and staff tonight about safety across the district. This comes as families voice their concerns at a Monday night board meeting. Tonight's meeting, though, is at the Manor New Technology High School at 6:30. The second meeting is at Decker Middle School on December 4th. Police say Mac Brown Imba Mbamwe stabbed fellow student Darren Loving on October 29th, killing him. The 18-year-old suspect faces a murder charge.
Making school campuses safer is an increasingly top priority for districts across the state. For Hays CISD, the latest steps include getting rid of small, beaten-up fences and wrapping campuses with more durable, taller fences. The district said fortifying school fencing has been a priority for about 5 years. These upgrades are now possible through a 2023 bond and some grants from the state.
Goal with perimeter fencing is to give us as tight of a security perimeter as possible.
The district tells us it will finish adding and replacing fences at its elementary schools first. Going a little more in depth for you on a new law aimed at overhauling school safety. The measure dedicated some funding to help school districts improve those physical barriers and security technology. It also requires every district to place an armed guard on every campus and gives the state some more oversight responsibility for safety compliance. Many school districts, though, did not have enough funding to pay for those requirements, and they've requested a waiver for the time being.
First warning weather.
I talked to you a bit about a tree lighting ceremony earlier. Now there's another event I want to talk to you about that's happening this weekend and lasting all the way through December 29th, and it's the Peppermint Parkway. It returns once again to the Circuit of the Americas. This is going to be really cool. It kicks off. It's a drive-through holiday display that you're able to go through and kind of enjoy. The tickets are from $45 up to about $99, but the Jolly Man in red will be there compared to the other place where the not so jolly man in green is going to be at. You'll actually be able to take pictures with Santa himself. And of course, there's going to be a holiday plaza where they'll have food, rides, and so much fun. So make sure you head on over to that as well in case you're wondering what the temperatures will be like for this weekend in case you decide to go. Around 78 degrees for Saturday, 84 degrees for Sunday. In fact, let's take a look out at the Circuit of the Americas out of Southeast Austin. A beautiful sky so far as they set everything up. I cannot wait for it. Right now, everyone is experiencing clear skies, and I don't expect for that to change, but it's a cold night ahead without the clouds holding in some of that daytime heating and the wind starting to die down. There's going to be a change and temperatures on their way into the 30s. I'll talk about that, plus the sunny skies are going to dominate and your weekend weather forecast.
Freddie, thank you so much. We'll catch back up with you in just a bit. The administrator of FEMA facing harsh questions from lawmakers on Capitol Hill this week about her agency's response to recent natural disasters and some accusations of political bias during those responses.
Those accusations of political bias have dogged the agency for weeks, and the administrator says it's all under investigation now. FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell says she's encouraging an Inspector General's investigation into this incident. During FEMA's response to recent hurricanes, one FEMA employee allegedly told subordinates to avoid offering assistance to homes with Donald Trump signs in their yards. Criswell says that employee was fired, and she now wants a deeper investigation.
These incidents come as FEMA also faces criticism from lawmakers about less than ideal responses to Hurricanes Helene and Milton. Administrator Criswell assured lawmakers their response to those disasters is under review and promised that FEMA does not discriminate against disaster victims based on any political considerations.
There is nowhere in any FEMA policy, any training material or information that would direct any of our staff to avoid a home because of a political sign in their yard. We do provide training to our staff about aggressive behavior and how they can make sure that they can feel safe. And as we have conducted this refresher training, we have reminded them that this is reactive behavior when somebody is approaching you, not proactive to discriminate against somebody.
Now, it is unclear when the FEMA Inspector General investigation will get underway. A hacker accessed a file containing the sworn depositions of two women involved in the investigation of former Congressman Matt Gaetz. That's according to a source familiar with the matter and an email obtained by NBC News.
According to that source, the information is unredacted and the file was downloaded from a secure link. The file included the testimony of the woman who alleges she had sex with Gaetz in 2017 when she was 17 years old. It also featured the testimony of another woman who said she witnessed that encounter. A source familiar with the contents of the files characterized them as very detailed and damaging to Gaetz. It was not immediately clear, though, whether any of that hacked information has been made public or whether law enforcement is investigating the matter.
A representative for Gaetz did not immediately respond to a request for comment. An attorney representing the woman involved in the alleged incident told NBC News his team was informed about the hack. The Justice Department investigated Gaetz in a case involving an allegation of sex trafficking of a 17-year-old girl. That probe effectively ended, though, last week when Gaetz resigned from Congress after President-elect Trump picked him to be his nominee for Attorney General. Gaetz has denied the allegations and has not been criminally charged. The Congressional Ethics Committee is still weighing if they will make that report public. As president-elect, Trump is preparing to take his seat in the Oval Office. He has selected a few more top leadership roles this week.
One we want to mention is Howard Lutnick, who will lead the Department of Commerce. He's the co-chair of Trump's transition team and a Wall Street executive. The department will play a key role in executing some of Trump's proposed tariffs on goods imported here into the U.S.
Trump also chose Linda McMahon to be the education secretary. Under Trump's first term, she led the Small Business Administration. She was also an executive of World Wrestling Entertainment. Trump previously said he plans to get rid of the Department of Education as it currently exists and allow each state to individually handle education.
Another pick is Dr. Mehmet Oz, the former TV personality and Pennsylvania Senate candidate. Trump chose him to lead the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Dr. Oz could work alongside Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Kennedy is nominated to become Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services. Both, though, are facing criticism for promoting misleading and false claims about health and science. Welcome back, and thanks again for being with us. Right now, there are thousands of children waiting for an adoptive family and even more kids in the state's foster care system. It's part of why November is known as National Adoption Month, to help raise awareness about the need and how you might be able to help.
So we have a wonderful guest here in the studio with us today, Kate Russell, who is a recruiter with the Dave Thomas Foundation for Adoption and also works with here locally Helping Hand Home. So Kate, thank you so much for being here.
Sure thing. Thanks for having me.
We want to start with the foundation because you guys do something a little different. What is different about how it works and why is it so successful for you all?
So the Dave Thomas Foundation uses what's called a child-focused recruitment model. It's very different than typical foster adoption scenarios. So we work with a smaller group of kiddos. Caseworkers that work for CPS have a lot of kids and are sometimes overburdened. We usually manage about 12 to 15 kids in our caseload at a time. We really get to know them. And the first thing we do is we really get to know who's in their network. So not just general recruitment efforts, but what we're doing is recruitment with regards to like finding out bio family members, extended family, maybe looking into people that were really important in their lives, like tell me about teachers that were really impactful, former caseworkers, former social workers, neighbors. And so we're really kind of digging into people that already have a connection with the kid and really looking at them as like a potential adoptive resource. That way, we're hoping to place our kids with somebody that's not necessarily a stranger, but somebody that they already have a relationship with.
Yeah, given that you all work with a pretty select group of kids throughout this process, what do you see as the greatest needs that the state is facing regarding this?
The greatest need is our older kids. So the average age for kids in foster care right now is 8 years old. A lot of people, when they think about foster care and adoption, they think about babies, and babies are great, but unfortunately the kids that are lingering in care are older kiddos. The Dave Thomas Foundation and my role, we only work with older kiddos. So I usually have kids that are over the age of 12. If I have kids that are younger, it's usually because they're a higher need kid. So that means that they have, they might be a sibling group, or they may have some developmental challenges or behavioral issues, and they're kind of harder to place, if you will. The motto of Dave Thomas is unadoptable is unacceptable. So these kids, like I have some kids on my caseload that have literally been in care for 10 years.
Wow. I imagine the model that you all have and that you just explained, though, of pairing kids with folks who are already in their lives, that already know them, might give you guys a more of a success rate, even with kids that may have higher needs or different challenges. But talk about the success you've seen with that model. Why does it seem to work well, particularly for these types of kids with the highest needs?
Absolutely. So most of our kids, because they've been in care for so long and because of what they've experienced as a result of why they came to care, they have a lot of trauma and they have a lot of behavioral challenges and they have a lot of issues attaching to people. And so if we have somebody that they've already found that attachment to, and somebody that understands them, understands their struggles, then it's easier to kind of work through those challenges as they come up. I'm not saying that we don't have kids that are adopted by people that, are just go through the process of foster and to adopt. We certainly need more people that are willing to, open up their homes to kids in foster care, even for a temporary amount of time. But we have found that these kids that are a little bit harder to place, if they already have a relationship with them, it's much more successful.
Well, Kate Russell, we really appreciate you taking the time today to talk about this and highlight this, and maybe it struck a chord with somebody out there at home.
I hope so. If so, then please look into the DaveThomasFoundation.org, or look into local agencies that can help you out. We have a partnership with my agency, Helping Hand Home, and we really appreciate you guys letting us come and chat.
And we'll make sure to get all of that information on our website, KXAN.com, so you can find those links if you are interested. Keeping in mind, we have a few more days left of National Adoption Month, so want to keep this issue on the forefront. Kate, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, first warning weather with meteorologist Freddie Vela.
What a day, and tonight is it going to get even colder out there as we look at satellite and radar. Just clear skies, no clouds whatsoever, and even as we zoom out just a bit more, we're not the only ones, the rest of the state, dealing with what we're dealing with, which is from El Paso to San Angelo to San Antonio and Austin into Houston, down to the Rio Grande Valley and up to Dallas. Just sunny skies and colder day and night. Temperatures now at 64 degrees. Winds coming in from the north. It was a bit breezier as the front came through earlier this morning. Things have calmed down since then. We're at about 5 to 10 miles per hour along the surface. You may get some of those wind gusts up to about 15 miles per hour, but overall, it looks like we should be okay. Mold in the high category, fall elm and grass in the medium categories, ragweed in the low categories. But you're noticing an upward trend here for mold and fall elm, with temperatures tonight expected to drop down into the 40s, even 30s, especially along the hill country compared to everywhere else, where we should be at around 40 to 41 degrees. Tomorrow will slowly creep back up to around 73 degrees. And then even as we look at satellite and radar over the next couple of hours, and even into tomorrow, there's no real big changes. Even tonight, 10:30, clear skies, and that's what's going to allow us to lose all of that daytime heating, the winds calming down, dry air filtering in. That will bring us down into the 30s for the hill country. Could we drop down to about 32 in some of the low-lying areas? That is a possibility. It's not until we get to about Friday morning that you could see just a couple of clouds trying to roll back in. Now, if you're excited for the football game this Saturday, don't worry, there's no rain there. We expect maybe a cloud or two. Kickoff around 76 degrees, and for the halftime, 77 degrees with mostly sunny skies out there. 7-day forecast will keep us at around 68 for today, 73 for tomorrow, 74 for Friday. For the game itself, we slowly creep up to about 78 degrees by Sunday, 84 degrees, Monday 85. But look at these lows, 40, 45, 46. So even after tonight, it's still going to be just a bit colder as we get out towards Monday and Tuesday, around 62 degrees. Now, this all leads me to our first warning weather university with radiational cooling. I mentioned that the cloud coverage, as it goes away, we're just left with all that daytime heating going. So the Earth's surface and the air around it are cooler at night. It's a combination of clear sky, light winds, and dry air. Everything I just mentioned, there it is, all put into place with your first warning weather university.
We have some breaking news for you this midday. The Texas Department of Public Safety will have a new director starting December 1st. We've learned Freeman Martin, the current senior deputy director at DPS, will be taking over for Steve McCraw, who recently announced his retirement after 15 years leading the state's law enforcement division. Martin received his Texas Peace Officer license in 1990, 34 years ago, and has been with DPS ever since. He was a highway patrol trooper, then a sergeant in the narcotics division before becoming a Texas Ranger. We broke this story first over on KXAN.com. We have more details now about the transition. Just look for this story on our homepage.
In some other news today, Frontier Airlines will launch 4 new nonstop routes from Austin early next year. The airline will fly nonstop to Chicago, Orlando, Cincinnati, and Phoenix starting in March. It currently flies nonstop to Atlanta, Cleveland, Denver, and Las Vegas. Frontier operates out of the South Terminal, which is set for closure in early 2026. The airline will move operations to the main Barbara Jordan Terminal before that closure. Looking in depth now, Delta and Southwest are also adding some nonstop destinations in 2025. Delta will fly to 6 airports, including a new route to Memphis. Southwest will fly to 2 airports, which will be new routes, Milwaukee and Reno. Online now, our Christopher Adams has a lot of places you can now fly nonstop from Austin and routes that have been canceled over the last year as well. So good news to have a few more flight options for everybody out there.
Yeah, it's a good way to, kind of take the weekend. Just go somewhere, especially when it's such a quick trip. Nonstop, I love to hear it.
We love a nonstop flight, right?
Yeah, that is true. Something else I love is the cooler weather. Take a look at where we're going to hit for your out-the-door forecast. Temperatures staying in the 60s for the day itself, 67 degrees by 3 p.m. By 7 p.m., we're looking at 59 degrees, and by 11 p.m., down into the 50s before we drop into the 40s and 30s. Look at your 7-day forecast for the UT game this Saturday, 78 degrees, but it's those mornings that I'll be watching as we stay in the 40s from now until then, early in the morning, with temperatures back up into the 80s by Sunday and Monday. I'm excited.
I may have to dig out the winter coat, though, tomorrow morning. That is some pretty cold temperatures.
That's something that we haven't had to do very much of. I know it was a little chilly this morning, but it came and went. Tonight is when you're going to really need the blanket. For those who know, the San Marcos blankets, if any of you have them, bust them out now. You know what I'm talking about.
This is the prime time.
This is the prime time. You're going to need it tonight, I promise.
That blanket said, this is my moment. I will be there for you. I will keep you warm. It'll be great.
Oh, for sure.
All right, everybody. Thank you all so much for watching here on KXAN News at noon. We'll be back in about 30 minutes with another update. Hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.